Hello and welcome to my channel. Today is going to be a bit of a different video. It's going to be a field trip. First of all, it features my father, and most of it we're taking a walk through the woods in Minnesota, talking about making maple syrup and how to identify maple trees and other trees. So if that's the kind of information you're into, this video is for you today. It's also a bit of a different way to learn. People learn in a variety of different ways, and one of those ways is just listening to conversations and listening to people talk about a subject. So in this video, it's me and my dad talking about, as I mentioned, maple syrup and trees, and throughout the whole thing, we're walking through the woods. So you won't see much of us on camera, but you will see some beautiful footage. And then in amongst that, some video from when I was a child. In elementary school, there was a project for Minnesota history class, and I did my project on making maple syrup because my grandfather had a maple tree farm in Minnesota. The video ultimately was narrated by my dad. After watching the original footage, I can understand why he chose to narrate for me. But there will be some of his narrated work interlaced into this, as well as some of the raw footage where I find it appropriate to share. Please note that the video content is from 1991, from VHS, and then put onto digital. So it's not as crisp and clear as you may be used to. We'll roll on that footage and then we'll come back and I will do some taste testing. I'll see you in a bit. So today I'm in northern Minnesota, checking out all the colors. I am actually at our family property, which is a large forested area in northern Minnesota. I'm actually out here today to talk to my dad about maple syrup. This is the place I used to go a lot as a child, and I'm coming out here to talk to my dad about maple trees because in the spring I'd like to start tapping some trees out here, and I just want to get some general information from him today. So we're gonna go for a walk later with my dad, and I'm gonna ask him some questions about maple syrup and these woods and the trees. And then later, I'm gonna go back home and we're gonna go in the kitchen and I'm gonna do a maple syrup taste test. I got some maple syrup from a place on the east side of the United States, and I'm gonna compare the basic flavor with my dad's and see if I can detect which one is my dad's and which one is not. And then they also have a number of different flavors that they offered, so I got a sample box and we'll take a taste of that. I'll see you in a bit.
You can tap right here.
This one right here?
It's a maple tree.
So how would you identify a maple tree? Like, what's its defining characteristics?
Grandpa told me 55 years ago. The leaves, for one thing, you can tell what a maple leaf looks like. And there's a lot of information, by the way, on the internet on how to identify.
I know, I'm providing some of it.
Well, no, but about how the leaves grow apart. Let's find something's got leaves closer to the ground.
How long ago did Grandma and Grandpa buy this property?
1966.
1966. And how long have you been making maple syrup?
Actually, we probably started about then.
So math, 60 years? Like
58 years.
So you've been making maple syrup for about 58 years?
So it's another maple.
And is there anything special about their bark?
A lot of older maple trees are dark bark like that. See that one down there is really light colored, but the bark is the same. It's the same texture. Sometimes you can mistake a maple tree for a basswood.
So that's a basswood?
Yeah, especially the one down there.
What happens if you tap a basswood tree? Do other trees run sap?
Every tree has sap. That's what feeds the leaves. So here's a couple little maples. Let's actually go over to this one. See the leaves better. Whoops, sorry.
It's pretty.
The leaves grow opposing, but these branches are like opposing. Every other one is on the opposite side of the main branch. So that's one way to tell. I just look at the leaves. The leaves and the bark. I don't look at how they're positioned on the branch or anything.
What other leaves are similar to maple leaves?
Really none. There are other maples that have a little bit different leaves too. Some of them are sharper and more little points on them, but they're still the same shape, general shape.
What kind of maple trees are the ones that we have out here?
These are hard or sugar maple.
Sugar maple? Are those the most common?
Well, yeah, there's a silver maple, a red maple, And some people try to tap them. In fact, I do. And I've never had very good luck with the red maple, especially. So there's a maple tree, there's a maple tree, there's a maple tree, there's one.
Is that a popple tree?
This one is a balsam.
So how many trees would you have to tap, or how much sap would you have to get to make 1 quart of maple syrup?
1 quart?
Yeah.
10 gallons. It's roughly 40 to 1.
And when the sap comes out of the trees, is it sweet?
Probably 1.5 to 3% sugar.
So is that going to be... I was reading some people talk about that online, and somebody made a comment that they would just go out and drink it and it was so sweet.
Yeah, it's not that sweet.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
So how many maple trees could you tap close to the cabin?
Yeah.
They're everywhere.
How many of these trees should I tap if I wanted to get, like, say, a gallon, like you give me every year?
Well, that's a good question, because making syrup is farming, agriculture. So much of it depends on the weather.
Okay, and the best weather for sap running?
Well, first of all, because it was dry a year ago in this past summer, that affects the sap flow for the next year. So the drought can have effect on it. And then in the spring when you start tapping, you want to have, ideal weather is just below freezing at night and just above freezing in the daytime. And then the tree acts as a pump. Yeah, so there's 2 maple trees right there too. This one here is a basswood, and those other 2 big ones right there are maple. So we could put a pipeline right down this trail.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Well, when you stand here and look, we're above the cabin, and if we did it right, we could have tubing that would just...
Sounds great.
Yeah. So ideal flow would be below freezing to above freezing, and then the barometric pressure affects that some. So the sap goes up and down when it heats and cools and heats and cools.
And you're trying to catch it while it goes up and down.
Right. So if it the weather gets really warm and the sap won't stop, it'll just go right on up, and then your season's over. So that affects how production is.
So then you want a spring that has varying temperatures, right?
This one's probably on the verge of not tapping yet. You're supposed to be like 10 inches in diameter for 1 bucket. So this would probably take a bucket. That one's probably too small yet. Those 2 back there would tap. Oh, I didn't realize there's so many of them right here, but now that I'm really looking for maple trees.
How long has it been then since you've tapped out here? Because I know we used to do it a lot.
I haven't tapped out here since I tapped with Grandpa whenever you kids were little.
Oh, really?
Yeah, since I bought it, we haven't tapped.
So you've been tapping the trees in your yard then?
Yeah.
For my Christmas gift?
Yeah. So this right here is where we recorded 35 years ago.
And I are sitting on the old log talking about why she's doing this. She's doing it for Minnesota history class, and how it relates, making maple syrup relates to Minnesota history, and the fact that the Indians used to do it years ago.
And I know that we were over there looking back this way. I'm not sure which tree it was. If we watched the video, we could probably figure it out. I don't think it was that one. It could have been this one.
Project to show you how to make maple syrup on my grandpa's maple farm. So we used to hang it on.
10-quart pail.
You hang it on like this. We'll show you on a tree.
7/16 inch fit, right?
Yep.
Why do you drill that size?
So the spile can fit into the hole.
Okay, go ahead, you're drilling backwards. Okay, how far are you going to drill in? You got to put down lower in your grade. There you go. You got to push on it. Okay, she's blowing the chips out so it doesn't plug up the spile. Don't blow the tree over.
Yeah, but
You got it cleaned out? Okay, run the drill bit in there again. Okay. I take the pail and hang it on that hook. The sap should be coming shortly. It's a little slow today because it's somewhat cloudy and windy.
there we go.
Hey, that drips steady like that all day long.
Unless it gets too cold.
Do you know why making maple syrup and maple sugar is part of Minnesota's history?
Because Indians used to make it.
Okay, and how did they do it? How did they tap the trees? They didn't have the hammers and the drill bits and the spiles and stuff.
What did
They
they
used
do?
to use a hatchet and
Put a slash in the
put
bark.
a slash in the bark
And then what did they catch the sap in?
and troughs,
What were the troughs made out of?
birch bark.
1, 2, 3. Well, all these are maple in here except a few. All the different sizes.
I didn't know we had gone so deep out here because,
Well, we came in from the other way.
yeah, and I didn't know we had gone so far out.
Yeah. And I don't know why Grandpa picked this spot here.
How long does a maple tree usually live? Like, what's their lifespan?
Oh, 100 years, some will die faster. And there's some sort of a disease in the maple trees out east, killing some of the maples, like in Maine and whatever.
That's not good.
If we looked at video footage from 35 years ago, if we could tell which one of the trees here it was. Look at this.
Oh,
See that? It's been sitting in that tree for how many years?
do you think that's the one?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if that's the one, but somebody hasn't. Somebody forgot it out here a long time ago.
I do remember that the tree I was next to, there was like a fallen log that I was sitting on near it. It's probably been cut up for firewood at this point.
Or rotted away. No, yeah, I remember that. It was leaning up. But anyway, I would say within 50 feet of where we're standing would have been the trees that you videoed.
Why do you think that this thing is happening on it?
What's that defect from?
Yeah.
One possibility, so in the spring of the year when the sap starts to flow up the trees, it's in the cells of the wood. And then if all of a sudden the weather turns really cold, the sap freezes and expands and it can split trees. I've actually heard trees cracking in the spring of the year. So that could have been what happened to that.
What diseases and insects or bugs are maple trees more susceptible to? Just any of the other ones that like other trees are susceptible to? Is there anything that's attracted to them more than other trees? I know.
I don't know the answer
off
the top of my head. Because thankfully we haven't got many trees that are diseased and dying in here. So we should have had orange on today too.
Oh, I know. I saw on the way here somebody was out in a field wearing orange, and I was like, I did not know it was an orange time of year yet, because I usually associate it. What is bow?
No, rifle, but small game. Anytime after small game season starts, you're supposed to have orange on when you're in the woods.
Yeah.
Hopefully this is safe.
I mean, it should be. Oh, how long can you store maple syrup? Unopened and then opened. And this is a really important question for me since I hoard my maple syrup.
Well, does still have that jar I gave him?
I'm not sure.
That was like 20-some years old when I gave it to him. I found it in his cabinet after passed away and we were cleaning the house out. We found this jar, and it was a jar that Mom and Dad had given them.
So is the worst case scenario for that then it's gonna like crystallize in there?
But that stuff hadn't crystallized yet.
Huh, so you can store it for a really long time then.
Yeah, and maple syrup, there's some friend of mine made this year. He brought me a little thing. It had a big chunk of like sugar floating in it. Like a little rock in there. So it crystallized within months.
Oh, so
that has to do with the cooking. I don't know if he cooked it too long or for a short period it was too hot, but I think it would have been cooking it too long to concentrate the sugars.
Somebody online, because I asked some of my Facebook friends if they had questions about trees in general, and I don't know if you know the answer to this, but somebody asked what's the best tree for combating erosion on a hillside if like on their property? Like, would you even plant a tree?
I would suggest more shrubs that will spread out the roots more, because just planting a tree, so to stop erosion you want to have mass of something growing, you know, some sort of shrubs, lilacs, whatever.
What else should I know if I come out here and if I try to do this without being able to just text you for the knowledge if I have a question? Like, what's the most important key things about maple syrup making? Obviously sterilization, right?
First thing you do.
Wash the pail
Okay, and what else do you want?
and the spile.
Yeah, well, the question I have for you, how are you going to evaporate it?
Well, what are good ways to evaporate it if you don't have a whole big setup? Because I remember the evaporation shed we had growing up.
And then how did they cook it down?
They used a big kettle over a fire in the woods.
Right. And how are we going to do it?
We're gonna use a little shed with big trough.
We'll show them that later, right?
Yep.
Okay.
There's a squirrel over there.
Supper.
How many maple trees do you think you have out here on the your portion of the property?
1,500 to 2,000.
1,500 to 2,000, wow. Are all these maples?
No, those are all popple. Aspen or popple, whatever you want to call them. So I left that maple in the middle, and there's a maple there. I just cleaned out all this little shrubs and pushed a couple of basswood out. Basswoods are kind of weed trees in a way.
Have the trees lost their leaves sooner this year? I was hoping for more leaves out here.
This has been a strange year, actually. Last week probably would have been nicer, but we've had some high winds. And the trees haven't been as colorful that I've noticed. The leaves are just kind of turning brown and then falling off as much. Because you can tell there's not that much color here. You know, as far as like bright oranges and bright reds.
Yeah. I have seen in other parts of Minnesota driving, I've seen like some really vibrant, fiery red ones.
And the sun's not shining today either, that always helps. These two trees right here, these are red oak. You can tell the bark isn't quite as, no maples right here. It's got more flat, not quite as burrowed or furrowed. And then I can tell you can tell by the leaves for one thing. So red oak and white oak have similar leaves, but the bark is different. But something like this, I could cut out of here with my sawmill and make lumber and build stuff. So now that tree right there is a white oak, and right over there is a red oak. See how the bark is different? The red oak is kind of a smoother type bark.
Yeah.
But even at the bottom there, it's still a little bit more coarse, but it's still not the same coarseness.
Yeah, from here you can see the deep grooves in that one.
It's a groovy tree.
It's a groovy tree.
So this is the sap trail. This is
because I've got a lot of video of us in the tractor trailer, like the little trailer with the sap buckets and all of us
a lot
kids.
of that was over there. This is the main sap trail, and when I have one of my cameras, the name is Sap Trail.
Oh.
I had it right down here one time. This is the main drag coming through because there's maple trees everywhere.
So tapping 100 trees, like how much how much syrup are you gonna get from 100 trees?
Well, there again, it depends on how the flow goes that year.
Okay. I guess too, and also doesn't it depend on how much you cook it down?
No, because you cook it down to the same consistency.
Because sometimes I get a much darker syrup from you.
Well, yeah, that's...
the sugar content itself?
Well, no.
Or?
See, that varies from year to year too, the color of the syrup.
How do they get it so consistent in, like...
Big manufacturers?
Yeah.
Well, they have expensive machines that can do that. It's a whole different process. I make artisan syrup. Small batches.
Small batch Christmas gift syrup that I hoard in the back of my fridge for as long as possible until I have another one to replace
Well,
it.
you must have some right now, right?
Oh yeah, I've got a gallon jar in the back of the fridge. 3/4 of it. Christmas is coming, so maybe I get some extra. It's the field.
Yeah, that's where we always used to come in a lot with Grandpa and the trailer.
Yeah,
Come in there, and then we'd go up into there.
So this is the old cow field?
That's the old pasture, yep.
Grandpa's house is over there?
Yep.
It's really overgrown compared to what I remember.
Yeah, it is.
What is this kind of,
That's a small oak tree.
a small oak tree?
I'm thinking maybe a white oak. And we have another oak tree to compare the leaves.
And this tree is,
Yes.
I always want to
It'd
say,
be really sweet if you could tell what it was.
is it a maple?
It is a maple.
Okay, it looks rough.
Well, that's because they did logging in here, and the skidder tires rubbed the bark off years ago.
Oh, wow. It's cool because from in here, this looks like a knee, and it looks like a woman standing with like one of her knees bent. If you look in here.
Okay.
I don't know.
You have a different imagination.
I do.
So there's a pretty red maple right here.
So red maple can be tapped, but is not going to
Yeah.
be like as sweet.
It does, you're right, it doesn't have the sugar content. So there's a big old, probably 200-year-old maple tree right there.
Oh, wow.
Probably in that neighborhood.
So could I evaporate sap in just like a big, like thick stew pot?
You could. Turkey fryers, a lot of people start with turkey fryers.
Okay.
A big flat stainless steel pan works the best. And I'm not sure that this would be a good year for you to try it because you don't even know where you're going to be living.
Yeah, yeah.
But I use wood. A lot of people that are starting out use propane, which isn't cheap. It's a process. And I've tried to improve my process every year, make it more efficient every year. And then sometimes after I've reached that particular goal, then it seems kind of boring. So I'm trying to think of something else to do because you can only sit and watch water evaporate for so many hours.
That's true.
But actually what really helped this year, well, I didn't use it this year because it was a weird year. Reverse osmosis. You remember when you were a kid on the farm?
Yeah.
We had one in the kitchen.
Yeah.
That took all the poop and everything.
Yes, I do.
All the toxins.
Yeah,
all
yeah,
the toxins and the solids.
yeah.
And gave us pure water.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we do for maple syrup is we save those solids because that's sugar. So you can literally use reverse osmosis to get rid of at least half the water, which really reduces your cooking time. A lot of hobbyists, I'm an artisan, remember?
Yeah.
A lot of hobbyists, you know, if you watch that maple syrup Facebook page, they're all over the place on colors and quality, and somebody will get done cooking in Canada and a week later, it's like, what happened to my syrup? You know, it's like solid sugar. It's like, well, you cooked it too long.
Seems like something I would probably do.
Well, you have to have some, they have equipment that tells you when it's getting ready to be syrup. Yeah. I've actually got to the point in my small batches, I can tell by looking at it when it gets brown and bubbly. You can tell how the size of the bubble and when they're popping or, you know, popping or whatever. Yeah, so this is
a maple?
It is.
So smaller, shallower grooves.
Yeah, and see, right here's a good contrast.
That looks like it's burnt.
I know, but it's a sooty. It's called a sooty something. I looked it up on the internet.
Does it impact like anything?
Depending on what causes the blackness.
Would you say probably don't tap a tree like that?
Oh no, absolutely tap it.
That's a maple?
Yes.
That's a maple?
Yes.
That's a maple?
Yes.
That's not?
That is.
That is?
But there's some here that you're not pointing at that aren't maples.
That's not a maple.
Right, it's a basswood.
That's a basswood.
But you see how similar the bark is?
Yeah. It's so subtle.
Yeah. One of us tapped a basswood one year. I don't know who it was. Grandpa maybe? We don't know. But when you're out here with 5 or 6 people drilling holes.
Oh, yeah. What happens, like, can you make syrup on it? Can you make basswood syrup?
There's nothing there.
There's not enough sugar content in it?
I don't think so. And it probably wouldn't taste that good.
Besides maple, what other?
Box elder.
Box elder? Ugh. Isn't that what I had in my yard that you cut down that's now growing up next to another tree and I'm gonna have to...
Yeah, box elder is part of the maple family.
Why did I end up with that one in my yard?
It produces a white syrup.
Really?
Yeah, back when Grandma and Grandpa used to have kind of open house and people would come from all over and look at stuff, they tapped the box elder in the front yard just so people could see how tapping the tree looked, and then they would cook it down and it was always a white. Sometimes they just throw it into the maple syrup, didn't matter. It's sweet.
So why don't more people do it?
I don't know, but
I might want to try to see if I can find enough out here to make like a small vat.
You're not going to find box elder out here.
You're not going to find box elder?
Box elder bugs killed them all.
Oh, okay. Well, they should have come to my house. Because that thing's a scourge.
So, this is basswood.
Are basswood good for anything other than trees? Like, can you build out of basswood? Is it a hardwood, a softwood?
It makes a really pretty tongue and groove ceiling because it's really bright white, and then it'll get like a dark colored diamond shaped knot in it. Basswood is actually considered a hardwood. Oak is a hardwood, maple's a hardwood. But if you took a maple log, an oak log, and a basswood log and laid them on the ground, the basswood log would rot within a year. The other ones would last for quite a few years. But they're both hardwoods because they lose their leaves. They actually make furniture framework out of basswood. It's a lightweight wood, but basswood is pretty light and not very strong.
So it's not great for furniture, like unless you're just doing like accents with it or something?
Yeah.
Or...
So this is 2 basswoods right here. So over by my deer stand, there's a lot of nice little straight basswood. I'm not sure, there's some sort of a beetle that chews in there or something. But anyway, there's a lot of nice little basswoods, pretty straight. I want to cut those and make log bunk beds for the cabin. So little maple tree, bigger maple tree, a couple of oak trees.
That's oak, right? That big thick one?
And this one with the more coarse bark.
Oh, where are we coming? Oh, this is coming up on the backside.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that this trailer was back here.
That's not a trailer. That's my sawmill.
That's your sawmill?
Yeah, I just brought this here this summer. I'm gonna cut some stuff next summer, make some lumber.
And that's where the deer get to hang. You put steps up to it.
Well,
Regular roasted garlic, vanilla infused, bourbon barrel, and blueberry. Right off, the tree juice is thicker, so I'm gonna have to close my eyes tight when I switch these around later to make sure I can't figure out what it is. As you saw earlier, I portioned out a little bit of the maple syrup from the maple syrup I get from my dad every year, as well as a maple syrup alternative that I was looking into in the off chance that I no longer have access to maple syrup that my dad made. While I'm talking to you, I am rotating the containers. I'm gonna try not to look because while I was pouring, I definitely noticed a very different consistency between the two. Hopefully I don't spill these. I'm closing my eyes. I've never done one of these before, so apologies if it's no good. One of these is from tree juice and one of these is from the container from my dad's, and I'm gonna try this one. Oh, I love maple syrup. Growing up, right after the maple syrup would be made, we'd have ice cream with maple syrup on it. It's one of my favorite memories as a child. That one definitely was delicious. Man, this is difficult. They're both really good, but this one has more of a dark flavor to it. Okay, I don't know which one is which. I want to say the one on the left. I can look now. I wanted to say the one on the left is my dad's because I associate a much darker, burnt isn't the word I'm looking for. So I'm gonna say I think that the one on the left was my dad's, but I'm wrong. I totally thought I would be able to identify which one was his. I've been eating almost exclusively maple syrup for my family for my entire life. Either way, they're both very, very delicious. I'd say that if you like a dark flavored maple syrup, I'd go with the tree juice stuff. I'm really disappointed that I couldn't tell the difference between the two. But like my dad said in the video, it all depends on a number of different factors. Maybe the trees from tree juice on the East Coast have higher sugar content in their sugar maples. I've had this box sitting around the house for quite a while. We're almost a year now. You can see like it's got a little grease from the kitchen, from sitting in the kitchen. It's got some stuff spilt on it. But I've been waiting to taste test these for a while. Garlic is obviously gonna be the last because it is a stronger flavor. All right, first we'll go with the vanilla. Doesn't really taste any different than the regular. It actually tastes more like my dad's maple syrup than their original one. Then we have the blueberry. Look how thick that is. It's okay. It's okay. So now we're gonna do the bourbon barrel. It's okay. I mean, it's a fun idea to think about infusing maple syrups, but there's nothing wrong with maple syrup. It's delicious on its own. So it's not really adding anything to the maple syrup eating experience. And then we have the roasted garlic. And this one I'm really interested in for savory applications, but I don't know what the difference would be if I just sauteed some garlic in a pan and added maple syrup to whatever I was cooking. That seems like the more reasonable thing to do. In any case, we've got roasted garlic. Oh, wow. No. So I don't know about that. Their original was really, really good. If you know somebody who just loves novelty, I'd say get these for them for Christmas. I definitely got some for family members last Christmas. I hope this video helps you learn. I know not everybody learns in the same way, and so I thought it would be a good idea to put a video out that was more of a conversational learning than one that was just a bunch of information. Thank you for stopping by my video today, and as always, have a wonderful day.